Okay, welcome back to Continue Freedom. Now we're live. Goodness gracious, I was having a hard time on Rumble. Okay, this is attempt number 2 at this live stream. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I truly appreciate it. Be sure, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is released. Be sure you hit me up in the comments section. Hit comments below if you're watching this after the fact. Either way, I would love to hear from you. Whether you agree with me or not, that's perfectly fine. But we are going to get into a lot of things. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and I'm going to rush through it as quick as I can just to give you the information that you're looking for. As you saw in the thumbnail, Biden complains that Trump has erased all the gains made under his administration. And my question is, my primary question, what gains would you be referring to, Mr. Biden? But before I get into that, I want to let everybody know, I was on a panel the other night with a Chicago conservative, and we had this very eclectic group of people. It was fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed it. So I want to, first off, if he or any of his followers, I've got some new followers that came over from his channel. I want to welcome you guys, but I'm so grateful for the chance that I had to get into what wound up being more or less a debate with a young man from the Bronx. He was a left-leaning guy, and we talked about anything and everything. I mean, we covered a wide range of topics, and it was enjoyable. I enjoy it, honestly, more than I enjoy just sitting here and talking about the news, which I do enjoy, but engaging with other people. And he was very reasonable. So I want to say kudos to Alan from that debate, that panel that I was on, because he stepped into what is really hostile territory, people that were very conservative. And by the way, that channel is the main audience are people that are trying to change Chicago into a red city, which is a massive feat. But they're organized, and they're doing a lot of great things in Chicago, trying to just change the overall mindset of that place. So I was grateful that I got to be a part of it. It was fun, it was enjoyable, and I hope to do it again. And if I do, I'm going to make sure that I cross promote on this channel so that you guys can watch it as well. But I want to say again, and then I'll get into the news, but kudos to Alan, because he did step into that hostile territory. He expressed his more or less left-leaning views, but I say that we need more people like him, because this young man, he was, I will say, and no slam on him, but this young man was really kind of given the normal left-wing talking points, and he was able to walk through it with us, with a whole group of conservative people, Republican people. And that's really what we need more of. So I'm super appreciative. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the news. Biden complains that Trump has erased all the gains under his administration. So I'm going to play the video from him, and he hasn't changed a lot. Let's be honest. He hasn't changed because he's still got that same angry, irritable old man tone. And maybe I shouldn't disparage a man of his advanced age, which I try not to do. But listen to this here real quick.
My friends, we need to face the hard truth of this administration. And it has been to ease all the gains we've made in my administration. To erase history rather than make it. To erase fairness, equality, to erase justice itself. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact.
Oh, if you have to say that it's a fact, if you have to try to convince people it's a fact, it's probably not. It's probably is hyperbole. It probably is just a random statement. So Joe Biden says, all right, Donald Trump he's ruining everything that we tried to do, which was to let all the people across the border, to, put the American people at risk, to wreck our economy, to drive up inflation, to drive up the costs for average Americans, to increase our debt, to increase our deficit. These are all the things that Joe Biden says Donald Trump is trying to undo. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And let's go through a couple of specifics. So the first thing I want to talk about is the war on the deep state. Now, you guys have heard me. I've talked about the Epstein files and how I have a huge problem with that. But let's step back and remember that, by the way, that we're only 6 months into this presidency. We're about 6 months. We are very, very early. We have like 3.5 years left of this presidency for him to do a lot of things. But he brought in Kash Patel and he brought in Dan Bongino. I have my own critiques of them solely around the Epstein list. So they albeit they flubbed that one, but they have been feeding us treasure troves of information. He's also brought in Tulsi Gabbard. So, and before I get deeper into this, I want to remind you guys that I prefer talking about these positives than the negatives, but I'm not going to stop talking about the things that I have a problem with. I will not do it, and I hope that you won't either. We have to be honest arbiters of the truth. But anyway, he brought in Tulsi Gabbard. Now, downside, he left her out of the room during the strike on Iran. Why? Because she's one of the biggest biggest advocates against forever wars, which I'm on board with her when it comes to that. But she, along with the DOJ, they've uncovered one of the biggest scandals of our lifetime, talking about the Hillary Clinton files, or the Russiagate scandal, which is monstrous. John Solomon came out recently and said, you know what? Barack Obama can actually be called in front of a grand jury to testify. And he can plead the fifth, he can't plead the fifth because he has presidential immunity. But if he lies, then he loses his immunity and he has to testify under oath. So he's got him between a rock and a hard place when it comes to all of that, whether or not Barack Obama actually, orchestrated this whole thing, which the intel that Tulsi Gabbard has revealed to us says that it has. Now, I'm going to play a clip. This is from this is Glenn Beck talking to John Solomon. It is wildly telling, but let's go ahead and listen to this real quick.
What makes this different than all of the other stuff that doesn't go anywhere?
Well, listen, it may not be different. And that will be the legacy of this era, that we unraveled one of the worst political scandals in history, and we really couldn't hold anyone accountable.
Why do you say this? Wait. Why do you say this is one of the worst political scandals in American history? That's quite a statement.
It is, because in no other time in history have we found a U.S. intelligence and FBI apparatus used to carry out a political dirty trick. Listen, they knew the Steele dossier was fake. They just said they continued to use it to spy and mislead the FISA court. They knew that the career officials of the intelligence committee didn't think Vladimir Putin was trying to help Donald Trump win the election, and they overruled them and rewrote the report. Those are incredible abuses. These are the most powerful tools we give the U.S. intelligence community and the FBI. They're supposed to only be used to go after our enemies, terrorists, intelligence threats to America. And in this era, from the 2016 to 2019 timeframe, we see those communities are being used to carry out political missions, to denigrate a political opponent, to falsely call true evidence of wrongdoing against a Democrat, the Hunter Biden laptop disinformation, to use the FISA court to spy on your political enemy, submitting to it to get that permission, unreliable and inaccurate information. That is one of the greatest abuses. In past times, we've had a lot of abuses in intelligence communities, things like we tortured people and we did things. Here, the abuse is the American people. The intelligence tools were used to carry out a political dirty trick designed to deceive the American public about who they elected and who they might elect. And I think that's why it's such a big scandal. You have to get to 30,000 feet to look at it. You can get into the weeds and then it gets complicated. But the FBI and CIA were used to deceive the American people.
Okay, the point from this is when these levers, these massive levers of power that we have given to the intelligence community, to the Department of Justice, to all of these folks, when those things are then turned on the American people, that becomes tyranny. That's a tyrannical system that is only bent on maintaining power and not bent on serving the American people. And that's part of what Donald Trump is representing for us. It's the fight against that, right? And John Solomon says this is a monster conspiracy, and it is, because the president of the United States knowingly lied to the American people, and that's a problem. That's not just a problem. That's a conspiracy against the American people. That is a huge violation of our rights. And that's, need I say more? And the fact that we now have proof that this was the case, how that's handled by the DOJ, how that's handled under the direction of Donald Trump, because he's got to be the tip of the spear on all of this. That's what's gonna instill faith in the American people, in not the system, but in the representatives that are, I hate to say it, but more along the MAGA lines, Is that going to be carried on into the years of J.D. Vance? Is that going to be carried on into the years of Vivek Ramaswamy? Is that going to be carried on into the next term of whoever follows Donald Trump? That's what we want to know, because it's not something, I don't believe, that's going to be solved in the next 3 years. But this is brought to us by Tulsi Gabbard, one of Donald Trump's appointees. We can look at Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and what they're doing. Right now, the border, there's some really interesting stats here. So I got in this conversation again on the Chicago Conservative the other night. I think it was last night. And we were talking about the deportations, Donald Trump's deportations, and they've got ICE hopping in here and rounding up these people. The criminals are obviously being prioritized, but they're getting other people as well. So birds of a feather flock together. You find an illegal immigrant, and that illegal immigrant happens to be hanging out with other illegal immigrants, and they roll up a lot of other folks. He's got Alligator Alcatraz, which in my opinion is more of a PR stunt to, I believe, promote self-deportation by these individuals. But right now, we're only getting anywhere from 750 to 1,400 people per day. That's not a huge number. I hate to say it, but that's not a huge number. And the fact that when you go online, which I did, and I searched how many people are being detained every single day, the numbers vary by a factor of 100, by 100%. So the low numbers, what most people are reporting, say about 750 a day. Others are saying 1,400 a day. It's a big difference. 1,400 versus 750. And then the estimated peak, this was from the Washington Examiner, was around 2,500 per day. So now we're talking about, well, are we getting 750 out per day, or are we getting 2,500 out per day? We don't know, but at the max, it's 750,000 to 1 million people per year on the high end. On the low end, we're not making enough of a dent, and things are going to have to get ramped up. This means, in my opinion, recruiting for CBP, recruiting for ICE, recruiting for the FBI, recruiting for all the people that can help us track down the illegal immigrants, the criminal illegal immigrants, and the illegal immigrants in general. How many of those are leaving? How many people can we trace that are self-deporting? Which, again, back to the Alligator Alcatraz, is what I believe is part of this. It's, hey, you're going to end up surrounded by alligators in a prison down in Florida if you don't leave now. But that, in my opinion, is a win. That's at the behest of Donald Trump. That's at the behest of Kristi Noem. That's at the behest of the publicity that Donald Trump, I'm sure, knew was going to be surrounding all of these raids and all these deportations. Here's another win. Doge, Elon Musk. And again, we could say that, yeah, Elon Musk and Donald Trump had a falling out. Sure, they did. There's absolutely no question about that. But the things that were revealed to we the people, that's a huge win for us, because we saw the corruption. We saw the mismanagement of our tax dollars. I've said this to a guy last night. Think about hearing of something silly that's being, like, silly amount of money that's being spent, and then look at your tax statement. Think about what you're spending. Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Doge, think of what you want about them, but they divulged some of the things. Some of them were true, some of them weren't. Some of them were, it was a hodgepodge of things. But nonetheless, if $1,000 go to something that is just absolutely ridiculous, like transgender tap dancing in Guatemala, then yeah, we should be angry about that, because that's my money. That's the money I gave to the government, and they're misusing it. Those things started to come to light. Another win, Pam Bondi. I'm not a huge fan of Pam Bondi. I will be perfectly upfront and honest about that. But she has still done the bidding of Donald Trump in most cases. And she is a tough person, I believe, but she is doing things that benefit her, in my opinion, and also benefit the Trump campaign. Now, I don't know that for sure. That is me speculating, and speculation's not necessarily a great thing. But we still have to ask, what is she doing about Epstein? What's she doing about Clinton? What's she going to do about Obama? And as I said before, Obama can be summoned before a grand jury. He can plead the fifth, he can't plead the fifth because he has immunity. But if he lies, he loses that immunity and he can be prosecuted. And then what's she going to do about the corrupt agents in the intelligence community who helped all these folks? Those are the questions we have for. But if we're putting this on a percentage scale, Pam Bondi is a win. Caroline Leavitt. Caroline Leavitt is a huge win. She is smart, articulate. She is an amazing press secretary, and she is socking it to the media, the mainstream media, the left-wing media, and that's a huge win. Pete Hegseth, he is the first in my lifetime, and I'm a guy who spent 21 years serving both active duty and reserves. He's the first Secretary of Defense who was in good enough shape to actually do PT with the soldiers. Never happened before. He's clad in American flags. He loves the soldiers. He loves our armed forces. And he's the only one, again, that can do PT with them without heavy breathing, or even walk with them without heavy breathing. That's the type of leader that the military needs. That's the type of leader that the military wants. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is Scott Bessent, and he was a relatively unknown guy. He was unknown to me, but he is absolutely killing it, and he's running interference with, while Doge was in play, he was helping them get into the system and divulge all this information, which was amazing. But he was helping us up in the dirt that we got on the deep state. He also had, by the way, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but there was the $1,000 baby bonds. This is an amazing thing that Donald Trump is doing. Scott Bessent is helping, or he's kind of stumping for it. But a baby is born and they get $1,000 invested in America. And that is something that will supplement Social Security in the future. I mean, can you imagine anything? This is saying, you know what? These kids, we're going to put $1,000 in, and in 60 years, whatever that's worth, that's what they're going to get to help supplement their Social Security. Scott Bessent, there you go, another win. So it's kind of one thing after another, but he's also changing the culture a bit, and he's forcing left-wing people to take an alternative perspective. This is from the New York Post, and this is an opinion piece, but it kind of highlights one of the biggest left-wing folks saying, hey, you guys on the left, us on the left, we're really screwing this up. They're talking about Cenk Uygur, who is the founder of the Young Turks. The radicals on our side are so stupid, fumes Cenk Uygur on X. The LA protesters damaging property are not hurting ICE or Trump, they're hurting their own side. Why do you need to burn Wamos and American flags? What does that prove other than what Trump wants to prove, that you are against America, violent, and dangerous? And how does it help the community or immigrants? While most people, quote, are legitimately and peacefully protesting, the rioters have needlessly cost us support, even at home in LA. Rule one of protesting: win the crowd at home, win hearts and minds, win the American people over. That's what serious people who want to win and protect our communities do. This is Cenk Uygur saying this. Cenk Uygur, who, by the way, he's saying, oh, you don't like America. No, the guy doesn't like America. He doesn't like the way America is run now. He is a socialist or communist. Pick whichever side of that spectrum you want to be on. But Cenk Uygur let's be honest, he doesn't have the best interests of America in mind. And he's shown his flexibility on his views, right? When he talked about, he's pro-union, 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 and then when the Young Turks employees were talking about unionizing, all of a sudden that guy's doing cheetah flips. Well, there you go. There's the consistency of Cenk Uygur. But now he's saying, oh, no, you got to be pro-America, pro-America. Sorry, you can't be a communist, you can't be a socialist, and pro-America at the same time. It just doesn't work that way. So this is part of the Trump effect, is he's making left-wingers who don't like America stand up and take notice. We can look at the economy as well. I'm going to get. Let me actually. Actually, before I get into the economy, let's talk about this one. So along these same lines, I apologize for this. Donald Trump he's creating people like this channel, like the Chicago Conservative, the one that I was on, people who are fighting against the system, who are bucking the system, and he's fighting this social media behemoth that is in favor of his opposition. Case in point, this is when I was looking for small YouTubers, Rumble folks, well, not Rumble folks, but small YouTube channels that I could collaborate with, because I want to collaborate with them. If you happen to be one or know one, let me know. Put it down in the comments. I would love to see it. But I had to scroll through about 5 pages before I came across anybody that was a potential. But this is what I was filled with. They were all talking about the Epstein. And what's the narrative that the left-wing media, but also YouTube, the social media, the algorithm. What else is that pushing you? The Trump Epstein furor grows as MAGA Karens, MTG, and Boebert demand answers. MAGA supporters eat Trump alive over Epstein scandal. Trump MAGA civil war over Epstein rattling coup. I am not MAGA anymore. The Young Turks. There you go. The guy down in the corner covered partially by Rosie O'Donnell. MAGA revolt against Trump and war. It's all about the conflict. But here's what they don't get. They are, the left, the Democrat Party is very masterful at towing the line because they don't have independent thought. If you are voting Democrat right now, if you follow the Democrat Party, you're falling in line with a party who does not promote independent thought. They promote hive mindset. That's what runs that party. That's what runs the media machine. Everything is the hive mindset. If you step out of line at all, you are chastised. And that's how you get the things like the Blexit movement. That's how you get people who are trying to flip these blue cities red. And there are people who rebel against the hive mindset. But they can't handle the fact that, you know what? I love Donald Trump. Republicans, by and large, love Donald Trump. But you know what? We don't like how he handled the Epstein thing, so we're going to say something about it. What does the left say? How dare you? Oh, they're splitting up. They're breaking apart. Tim Pool, Patrick Bet-David, Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly. All these people are, they're divided. The party's falling apart. No, we are a party of independent thought. And they can't stand that. And I will say right now, another critique of Donald Trump, I don't like how he handled it. When we responded, and I said, people like myself and others, bigger names obviously than me, said, I don't like how this was handled. And he lashed out at us. I don't like that. Does that mean I don't like Trump? No. No. I love Trump. But that was one thing that he got wrong. So I say all this to say, Donald Trump he's making waves. But what I hope and pray for him is that he doesn't get too wrapped up into this, my way or the highway thinking, because in my opinion, that is left-wing thinking. My way or the highway, that's how these people think. That's not how we think. That's not how I think. I'm not going to agree with every Republican. I sat on that panel last night. I probably don't agree on everything with those people, but you know what? We more or less have the same common goals, and that's what we can work towards. We're not a homogenous group of mindless lemmings like you see on the left. Fair enough point? I hope so. He's fighting back against the culture war, and I will tell you that the people are, as I said before, they're pushing back. Not just in, everyday conversation, but they're pushing back culturally. I know that I made a video about this the other day, but American Eagle stands up for Sydney Sweeney after the leftists call her racist over her good genes thing. The American people are saying this doesn't make any sense. Why? What is it? What do genes have to do with Hitler and fascism and all of that? I think it's a silly argument. The average American says, you know what? I kind of back the rest of, I'm going to go ahead and side with common sense. I've heard enough of the silliness. I'm going to go ahead and side with common sense. And even American Eagle realizes that, you know what? We don't want to be Bud Light. We don't want to have to deal with losing billions and billions of dollars. She's a pretty girl who sold out. We sold out of jeans because of this lady. Now, you could question some of her, her acting and other things like that. I'm not saying that she's some bastion of conservatism, but I'm saying the social movement itself, which said, you know what? Pretty girl in blue jeans, maybe that's a good way to market things. Understand what actual beauty is. But the company says, I don't want to lose more business. Yeah, exactly. Because Americans don't need to show morbidly obese people in their jeans. Maybe they should go back to what they were doing before. Show us pretty people. Men are doing the same thing, by the way. Young men, they're ditching the Democrats. They say, I can't take any more of this. I'm not effeminate. I'm not going to be a feminine dude. So young American men ditched Dems by 28 points since 2023. This is from Pew Research, so not a right-wing poll by any stretch of the imagination. New polling released by the Pew Research Center revealed that the Democrat Party is hemorrhaging support, especially among the youngest American adults. In 2025, National Public Opinion Reference Survey has found that of those U.S. adults between the age of 18 and 29, 34% of men are Democrats or lean Democrat, while 58% of women said the same. In contrast, 58% of men said they were Republican or leaned Republican, while 37% of women said the same. This is a dangerous statistic. It's dangerous because young men and women need to find people with common values. And when women are being liberalized at the rate that they are, this is going to create, it's already creating problems. You can listen to a lot of these social scientists on the internet, and they're talking about the problem young men are having in finding a mate, because young men are now seeking masculinity. They're seeking that provider role and the traditional role. Young women are saying, I don't need a man. Young women say, I stand for the social justice stuff. I don't want to stand with this masculinity thing. And the men can't find somebody. But the men are starting to vote Republicans, and they're putting a wedge between men and women. This is going to further destroy our reproductive rates, our reproduction rates. We're already in population decline. I mean, it's already part of the problem. But this is a massive swing, a 28 ditching Democrat by 28 points, a 28-point shift. That's huge, and that's dangerous for the country. This trad wife movement, I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, because men are moving that direction, and the women that do are going to have their pick of the litter. The women that say, no, I want the man to pay for the meal, I want the man to do all of this, but I don't really need a man. I just want him to take me out to dinner every now and then so I don't feel lonely. They're not going to have kids. They're going to be alone. And the women who say, you know what? I want to be a good wife to my husband, as the Bible tells us. I want to be a helper to my husband. Oh my goodness. They're going to have the pick of the litter. The absolute pick of the litter. So I just don't want to undermine the detrimental situation that we're in, or downplay it, not undermine it, but downplay the detrimental situation that we're in. And especially in times of AI, because what we're being exposed to, we're going to see a massive shift when they start taking the demonetization, when they start taking the curation of YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of these things, and they start putting AI with a bent, which we know that Grok has a bent to it, ChatGPT has a bent to it, a political bent. The situation's gonna build on itself. It's gonna continue to get worse. That's why I say, look, go get in a church group. That's the best thing to do. If you want to find somebody, get in a church group. Don't listen to Pearl and all these people that are putting down those. No, just Pearl from Pearly Things. Don't listen to her or any of those folks. No, get into a church group. Find a good woman. Find a good man. You don't need online dating. Go face to face like we used to, because the online situation is going to continue to be manipulated by AI, and it has its own goals and motives that are directed by the same people who have been censoring the information that we're getting. So I'm putting all this together to say that instead of hearing from people like me who say, you know what? Being married is awesome. Having a great wife is awesome. Instead, they're going to feed you this nonsense. Two women that say MAGA Christians suck, and the pinned comment up here is for, let's just say, devices for personal enjoyment, pinned at the top of their thing. That's what you're going to get. When left-wing AI is put in place, this is what you're going to get. You don't need a man. Christians are terrible, especially if they're MAGA Christians. Now here's a thing that we're profiting off of that will give you some silent enjoyment. That's the sort of thing that they're going to be pushing. And Donald Trump is fighting back against this. That's why I love seeing, whether it's Young Americans for Freedom or, any of these other organizations that are bringing youth along the conservative movement. That's what's important. We have to get the youth outside of the algorithm. You've got to get outside the algorithm, because this is the nonsense that it's going to feed you. Now, I'm talking specifically to young people, but for anybody that's got kids, you have to consider this is the type of stuff that the algorithm is pushing them. Wildly, wildly detrimental, not just to those kids, but to our country. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the tariffs. And, you know, I've look at the trade deals. We just have to talk quickly about the trade deals. So tariffs, first off, he's putting them in place. Last month was the first time that we have had a budget surplus, and I think it was 12 billion? I didn't write down the number. I looked at it, and then I thought I would remember it, and I completely forgot what it was. But we had a multi-billion-dollar budget surplus for the first time since 2015. And when he's in front of these world leaders, and the reporters ask him, "Is there any way that you're ever going to, alleviate some of these tariffs?" He just says, "No, we're not. I'm not alleviating the tariffs." But we've come to an agreement. He's got trade deals with the EU, South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Singapore, trillions in investment. Japan has pledged trillions in investment over the next 10 years. And he's going to these countries all around China, by the way, that China relies on, and he's working out trade deals with them. So he's going to bring China to the table as well. And he's making these companies, when he goes and works these trade deals, he's making them invest in American companies. Not that they're going to come and build their product here, but when they're build their product there and sell it to us at a discounted rate. No, he's saying, if you're going to build your product, you're going to build it here and you're going to use American workers. Oh, here it is. I found the number. 26 billion budget surplus last month. 26 billion budget surplus. Now they're talking about giving people bonuses, American citizens, bonuses, because of all the money that they're bringing in. I say don't do that. I say just pay down the debt. We're fine. Even the poorest of the poor, they're going to waste that money. Put it towards the debt, because we got to start thinking about future generations. Okay, so those were all the points that I had to bring up tonight. I had to talk about Donald Trump and the amazing things that he is doing. I will continue to criticize him when he does things that I don't like. But look, I care about this country. I truly, truly do. And I highly respect all the people like myself that are out here trying to change these things. I'm not saying I respect myself. I'm saying that, referencing back to that panel that I was on last night, there's a lot of people out here trying to change this country for the better. And I love that. And I think it's great. And I think that even based on the political movement of young men, we're seeing a shift in this country. I hope that women will start to have that same shift. And if you're a woman out there, I know that the bulk of my audience is male, but I do have a fair amount of female viewers, regular female viewers, and I hope that you all will push that same message with the people in your sphere. That we care about this country. That maybe this wild fifth wave feminism that we're in is not the best thing for America. Maybe having a family is important if we care about the future of this great nation. And that's all I'm going to say tonight. That was 30 minutes. I got through a lot of stuff, made my points, and I'm appreciative for all you guys that hung in here with me. Be sure, if you are new to this channel, or if you just found this content, hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. Be sure you hit me up in the comments. Thank you, guys. God bless you. God bless America. And I will see you in the next episode.